Testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing. Number 9. Hey YouTube. Once again, we are live on the interwebs. And once again, this is a streetcar named Desire. Hey Laura. Hey Daryl. Welcome to the stream. Once again, this is a streetcar named Desire. I am dependent on the kindness of strangers again to give me a topic to work with here. I've pretty much exhausted my ramblings. Thank you, Laura, for the sound check. Hey, Cody's son, welcome to the stream. If you guys have any questions or topics that you want to talk about in fish keeping, or hell, whatever, hit me with them and we'll see where it goes. You know how I am. I'll ramble for hours, or at least an hour. It's definitely getting cooler here. I can definitely feel winter approaching, or at least fall anyway. I like fall in Indiana because it's a comfortable kind of season usually. It gets cool at night, but it stays pretty nice during the day. The weeds and the bugs die back. You know, basketball starts, football starts. It gets to be an interesting time of year here, but it means winter's on its way. So in the fish keeping world, we need to be very much on our toes so that winter doesn't catch us short on heaters or shorted out on heaters. I keep rehashing the same subject, but I think it's important. Hey Pam, welcome to the stream. I've been watching your videos. I'm having trouble with a neon at the moment. It's had a swollen belly for weeks. I'm pretty sure she's egg bound. Am I right in thinking there's not much I can do to help an egg bound fish? Others might give you maybe better advice. Neons, I have kept neons several times, but I stay away from them because just the quality of the fish in the hobby has always been rough. You know, the amount of tank bred neons that are in the hobby is very small, and so what you're usually getting are live caught in the wild, and while they're excellent fish and gorgeous, yeah, I saw that, Pam. It was an excellent update. Egg bound in larger cichlids, you can sometimes help by netting the female and flipping her upside down in your hands. And you want to make sure your hands are really clean, and you want to be careful that you don't just maul the fish when you're holding it, and then pressing slightly on the abdomen on both sides. Sometimes, you know, it's tricky because you don't want to press too hard, but you can easily pop an egg out if that's what's going on by applying pressure to both sides right near the vent or down below the vent on either side. But you don't want to press too hard. And as far as a neon goes, they are so small and so likely to jump out of your hands that I'm not sure that you could do a whole lot. I mean, you might be able to. You might be able to get, if the neon's suffering, you might be able to, it might lay still in your hands long enough for you to put thumbs on both sides of its abdomen and very gently push. I know how much pressure to apply to a cichlid to get an egg to pop out because I've done that many times, but it's going to be much more difficult to gauge how much pressure you want to apply to the sides of a tetra, because you could pretty easily squish it, and that's not something you want to do. That's not going to help anything. My gut reaction is to use some Epsom salts. Hey, there's Tom Pedersen just dropped Epsom salt on you at the same time that I did. So Epsom salt, what my understanding of Epsom salts is that it is highly mineralized. It has a lot of different minerals in it. So what it does is, one, clear the fish's digestive tract so that it passes waste much more easily, and two, it allows the fish, just like salt does, it allows the fish to have an easier time with osmotic pressure. My understanding is not that it loosens muscles, but I could be completely wrong about that, Tom. I don't know that for a fact that it doesn't, but I know that it will. If you've got a fish that's having trouble passing parasites or worms, that if you use Epsom salt, that it will allow them to suffer less and to pass whatever they've got inside their gut a lot easier. Laura says, Pam says, echoes me, that she's done it with a goldfish, but a neon is pretty small. And to me, that's, the amount of pressure that you're going to have to apply is going to vary so much on such a small tetra. Laura says, I've considered starving and hope she reabsorbs because of lack of food, but I don't know if separating from the school would cause more stress than is worth. My standard answer to a question like this, and always with neons, is to look up neon wasting disease, and there is some good literature and good advice out there now, whereas when I was keeping neons, the couple of times that I've tried to keep them, there was no literature about neon wasting disease. I think that a lot of the neon problem comes from where they come from. They come from dark water. They come from shallow, low pH water. The pH is probably 5-ish at the most that they're used to. Freshwater fish keeping just did another one of their collecting fish in the wild videos, and I would highly recommend looking those videos up. Freshwater, I'm messing up the name. I've got one of their videos liked. If you look through my likes, you'll find them. The latest one they're doing, what they've basically done is gone out to the locals that collect the fish that go into the towns and are then shipped out. They've gone out with one of the freshwater exotics. Thanks, Cody, son, you're right. the last video they did um, is exactly in the area where they collect um, neons, or maybe it's cardinals. I don't know. You're going to have to look. I'm getting so old I can't remember what my name is most days, or remember what day it is. Maybe it's cardinals that they're collecting, but I think they're neons. And the water is so tannin stained and such a low pH that those fish come to us with having problems dealing with how hard our water is and how much calcium is in our water. And that doesn't mean that they haven't been adjusted to it, you know, in the transshippers stuff and the companies that are selling, they surely adjust somewhat. But I always want to check the pH and the TDS of any fish water that I bring home from a store or that gets shipped to me from somewhere. Yeah, Laura, if your water is super hard, and I know this used to be a worse problem than it is now for some reason, but hard water has always caused some fish, discus in particular, but some fish to have problems with breeding. They end up with egg-bound issues. They end up with just issues where their stuff gets clogged up with all of the calcium that they are not used to dealing with. And if your pH is neutral, it's probably about 3 points too high from what they expect, which is going to be 4 or 5. Hey, HC Aqua, welcome to the stream. And what you end up with is fish that are not used to dealing with pathogens that can exist in neutral to higher pH, in harder water. There are pathogens that simply cannot survive in low pH. You know, we're talking 4 to 6 really. These diseases and pathogens simply cannot survive in their native environment. And so when they get shipped and dumped into harder and harder water, when someone tries to acclimatize them, they are suddenly faced with a bunch of new diseases, parasites, pathogens that they have no immunity built up towards. And so unless your fish are really super healthy, they have a really hard time developing that immunity, developing that ability to resist those pathogens, develop ability to fight off parasites that can exist in higher pH water. And so, and I know this has always been worse in the past than it is now for some reason, and I don't know what that is. Maybe it's the treatment that wholesalers are putting the fish through before they get to a shipper, or before they get to, they're shipped to a big box store or wherever. I guess they've just gotten it down to a science now, so they can get those fish to survive longer, and so it's less of a problem than it used to be. Wasting disease is not as prevalent as it used to be, but it is still an issue that those fish have to face. They are suddenly developing problems that they never had to deal with before. And if your fish are stressed by poor water conditions, if your fish are stressed by rotting food in your tank, if your fish are stressed by being bullied or chased around by some larger fish, then suddenly all these problems become major problems. Whereas the fish in a perfectly healthy state, these problems are something that it can deal with most of the time. When they're suddenly stressed and feeling less safe and healthy, then all of a sudden all these issues pop to the fore more than normal. And I have no idea whether this is your issue, Laura, or if you are exactly right and your fish is just egg bound. But if you've got super hard water and the difference between the shipper that shipped them or the store that was holding them and then your water may be an issue that fish is having to deal with as far as breeding goes. You might cut back on food. You know, it's not going to hurt your fish to eat less. As much as we all say, don't feed your fish, just feed your fish a few flakes. The truth is that your fish need more than that. But it's also the truth that overfeeding is just as damaging and perhaps more damaging. You know, you're shortening the fish's life if it's fat and bloated and can't swim around as well. But by the same token, Dr. Lowe, the fish vet, did a video a month ago where he went out on a call and the fish had a sunken belly and the guy thought it had some parasites, and he did all of his testing and proved that it didn't have parasites or that it didn't have hole in the head disease or something, and he did a bit about the weight of the fish versus how much food it was getting. Anyway, he showed a ratio that he thinks that fish should be fed by and how much the weight of the fish is in relationship to the amount of food that fish needed to be eating, and it was about 10 times more than the guy was feeding. So he had the guy start feeding the fish more, and you know, it's a balancing act. It's a balancing act for us to figure out how much our fish really need to eat. You know, the old rule of putting it on the surface of the water, and if it's not gone in a minute, then you've overfed, is not necessarily true. You may have fish in your tank that are bottom feeders and don't get to the food fast enough. You may literally have to overfeed to make sure that your fish are getting, you know, all of your fish are getting enough food. You may have to try the trick where you take a piece of PVC pipe and drop it into the water and put it on the bottom of the tank and then drop food down that pipe so that the food only gets to the bottom of the tank when it comes out and is there for your bottom feeders to eat. It's a real balancing act, like everything else we do as fish keepers. We're continuously trying to balance between good water and bad water. Hey, Dan Slee, welcome to the stream. Dan, I probably ought to give you a wrench. And HC Aqua's always around too. Now we can have a mod wall. Laura says that the store got them from has the same water as me, just hard water area around here. She's definitely more swollen on one side and lumpy, so it looks like eggs to me. Oh, I'm hanging in there, Dan. How about you? Um, yeah, I'm not familiar at all with how a small tetra acts with dropsy, so I'm not sure. I mean, I know larger fish how they behave when they're suffering with dropsy, and you get the scale pop and all of that. My eyes are so bad at this age of my life that I'm not sure I can tell you if if a tiny tetra had dropsy, but it sounds like, Laura, that you are dealing with egg bound issues. Um, if you've seen any kind of breeding type behavior, if the fish are flashing in and out of plants, like breeding, pre-breeding stuff, then that might. Okay, Pam's telling me dropsy is obvious even on a tiny fish. I'm not sure. Dropsy is not something that I've dealt with a lot. I don't know whether I've been lucky or whether I just don't let my water quality get to the point where my fish get dropsy, or what the story is. But dropsy, I've only seen it in a few goldfish, where the scales pop on the side, and that's pretty clear to me. Maybe I've had fish that had dropsy and didn't recognize it. You guys are going to have to help me out on this one, because that's not an area of medical care that I've had a lot of experience with. But Laura, I would keep a really close eye on that fish, and you could easily be dealing with some kind of tumor. Hoping to look in the tank and she will have dropped the eggs anytime soon, but it's been a fair few weeks now, so getting more and more concerned. Yeah, I would go through Dr. Lowe, the fish vets videos, and see if you can find glean any decent information out of his old videos about tumors and how you might be able to tell from the exterior of such a small fish that you were dealing with a tumor. And I would cut back a little bit on feeding and see if that starts an absorption process. I mean, if any of your fish start looking skinny, I'd go back to feeding normal, but it wouldn't hurt for a while to give them a little bit of less food, maybe up the quality of the food for a while and go less, in the sense of maybe feeding live, or maybe frozen bloodworms or Daphnia. You might try something like that. Pam says, I had a female Endler get it once. Well, Pam, talk to us about it. What were the signs that you saw? Was it like swim bladder troubles, or was it like, I've seen little fish flick a lot, but that's usually a sign of either a parasite or some ick, or velvet sometimes will make fish flick off rocks and stuff, but I'm just not sure that I recognize dropsy in a tiny fish. I mean, I think I would recognize it in a larger fish. Hey, Alien World Aquatics. Welcome to the stream. She was pine-coned, was extremely pregnant, and she pine-coned. So you're talking about actual scale pop, where the scales pop up. Laura says, I feed a variety of food. I guess I'll try the salt, cut back on feeding, and watch this space. Yeah, that's probably about the best. You may get better information from somebody else, Laura, but just from seat of my pants and what you are potentially dealing with, I would say keep a close eye on it. I mean, if this doesn't go away in 2 or 3 weeks and the swelling is increasing, then I'd be a whole lot more concerned about, a potential tumor, a swim bladder problem. There are a number of things that can cause, issues that you may not recognize as possible. It's just so hard with tetras for me to really be able to tell what I'm looking at. That's why I got my camera, because my eyes have gotten so bad that I wanted to use my camera to be able to really zoom in and get really clear pictures that I could blow up and really see. But what I've learned is that it's really difficult for me to get really clear images because the focus is either focused on the eye or the tail or the top fin or something, and I'm just not getting a clear enough image so that I can really detect small signs of illness. And of course I wanted to use it for video making and stuff like that. I hadn't considered tumors. I could potentially be that as well, as it is more swollen on the right than the left. Well, I mean, I'm not trying to alarm you, Laura. It's not, I don't think that it's probably time yet to really feel like you're dealing with a tragic loss swimming around in your tank. I just keep an eye on it. I just watch behaviors. I think I'm remembering that Dr. Lowe, the fish vet, the fish doctor, you can look for him online, and that guy is really good. He does stuff that he doesn't even talk about. Hey Joseph, welcome to the stream, man. I hope you guys did all right with that hurricane. It's looking good, man. It's looking like Florida's getting ready to get slammed. We just don't know how bad it's going to be. Joseph, you might be able to offer Laura some advice. She's got a she's got a tetra that is exhibiting what she thinks is egg bound. A neon tetra, and we're just talking about what we know about how to deal with an egg-bound fish or potentially other problems that could be showing a sign of being a look like egg-bound and not be. A tumor is possible. I think you could even have some sort of internal body cavity. No, she's just trying to figure out what's causing her fish to look the way it does, and I mean, I'm sure she'd be tickled to death if she could get them to spawn. Well, Daryl, I hope for the best. Those East Coast hurricanes can be particularly dangerous when they hit. They basically spin up before they hit the coast, and I've lived I've lived on that coast, up and down that coast. My dad worked in the space program. Dan, thanks for stopping by, man. Um, yeah, you probably would lose them in a community aquarium, Laura. But some might survive. And Joseph is saying internal parasites as well as liver and kidney problems all look the same from the outside. HC Aqua says he has a pseudomugil, that egg bound. She's been living like that for half a year now. Wow. Well, you know, they do say to starve them. Hey, KG Cichlids, welcome to the stream. I'm in a mod making mood today. I think I missed Cody-san. And Alien World Aquatics. Okay, now you can all kick each other out of the stream. You can all silence each other. Oh, wait. No, you all have wrenches. You can't. Now, and Joseph's giving you the starve, then feed peas and other fiber, maybe push things through. Yeah, everybody poo-poos me now when I say feed peas. But back in the old day, that was about all we had in a lot of instances. Epsom salt and peas were about the best. A lot of you know, the old school method was always do more water changes. Just do more water changes. Make sure that water is crystal clear, you know. And there's a lot of truth to that. There's a lot of truth to the idea that just having a really good turnover in water quality yeah, you're right, Laura. Fish do like peas. Some fish are just really sensitive to things, and it's been my experience that neons can be really touch and go sometimes. They just really can be. Joseph has made pea mash and force-fed them with a syringe. With a hypo needle on it, Joseph? I'd be scared to death I was intramuscular, you know, sticking a hypo in. Now, I've seen Evan, had to do it with a koi. Yeah, koi's have got a lot bigger mouth and throat than neon tetra does. Thank you for being here, KG. That's no needle down the throat. Right. Well, but they do have now. I noticed that Evan, IFG, Inquisitive Fish Guy, did a video where he was giving it to a fairly small African cichlid. Now that's nothing like a tetra, but it's a lot closer. And he had a very thin plastic needle without a sharp tip on it, so that he literally could put excuse me, that needle down the throat of a fish with a very small throat. You know, rainbows are big fish, but rainbows actually have very small throats. And KG's warning you to use a rigid tube, unlike the floppy one I used for my puffer and failed to inject effectively. Yeah. Laura, you got me on that word. I've got to admit that a cannula is not a word that is in my arsenal. If it's describing a plastic needle tip, not just the needle itself being plastic, but the tip actually being plastic, then yes. But I've got to admit that's outside of my main. I pride myself on my vocabulary, but I've got to admit that's a word that's not in my vocabulary. A cannula needle. You make me think that you're a nurse, Laura, and that I'm dealing with someone who has medical experience beyond my like the syringe the dentist gives you to clean out your tooth abscesses. I'm not going to obsess on my teeth. Okay, Laura does work in care, and we have solved the mystery of a lifelong poet that doesn't know a word. This is shameful that I have no grasp of the word. I couldn't even I know what you mean, Joseph. I couldn't even lay a finger on that word. It doesn't show me any Latin derivation. It doesn't show me any other language derivation that I'm aware of. Now, I guess it could be Spanish. That could be a Spanish derived word, but I'm thinking this is something from medical science. It's always good to learn new things. And if I have any advice to give any of you about anything, it is always to keep your mind open and active and try to learn and absorb new things. Now, next week when I do a live stream and Laura asks me, was it more like a cannula than a needle? I'll be lucky if I remember that word and what it means. But I try to keep myself flexible enough to continue to absorb words. I've always prided myself in being a wordsmith. And even if I'm not very good at it, I've still prided myself in it. And I've developed a pretty large vocabulary over my lifetime. Now, that doesn't mean I'm very good at using that vocabulary, but I think that I am. I think that I know what a lot of words are and mean. And I can guess usually on even more of them because I've had enough experience guessing words that I did not know that were presented to me. I try to cultivate as many new words as I can, but cannula is a new one on me. Well, Joseph, are you ready to head to... Pam says, my problem is that I know what they mean, but have no idea how to pronounce them. Well, Pam, in in the cocktail parties that you go to, in the high society that you hang around with, just use those words wrongly and see if someone is quick to correct your usage. Do you mean potato? Yee. When was the last time you went to a cocktail party, Pam? Joseph, are you ready to go to Aquashella? Are you practicing? Are you practicing your dance moves? Art show openings. Ah. Well, see, you run with the crowd I can't even aspire to, Pam. They would not even allow me at an art show opening. My wallet's too thin. My taste in art is too low. So, have you guys been all practicing your Haley dance moves? Those of you that are headed for Aquashella? Yes, Joseph. I can't wait to see you busting a move. Oddball shuffle. Yep. Shoot, Tom, I left you out. You should be accosting me. Everybody else has a wrench. You deserve a wrench too. We'll be wrench solid today. I never had dance moves in my entire life. I have never been a dancer. My great aunt, when I was about 5, just made her mind up that she was going to teach me how to do the twist. The twist was all the rage right then. Chubby Checkers was making a killing, singing that song all over the country. And she was just bound and determined that I was going to be a high society twister. And I must have been all of 5 or 6 when this was going on, and she taught me to act like I was holding a towel. Hey, big city betas, welcome to the stream. Joseph says he can do the jitterbug. I never learned the jitterbug. I could fake it, Joseph. But my great aunt told me to act like I was holding a towel in both hands behind my back, and that I was drying off my butt after having gotten out of a shower. And I worked and worked and worked at it, and eventually I learned to twist well enough to shut my great aunt up. My great aunt was a remarkable, wonderful person, and I have many fond memories of being around her. I don't have many fond memories of the twist, but at least I was able to do something when I went to school dances or hung out at proms. I went mainly for my buddies and for the partying, and not so much the conquest of the feminine gender. I never was much of a conquistador as those things went. All right, guys, we're rounding up to the top of the hour. If someone has a topic to kill another 10 minutes or so. Conquest of the feminine gender. Yes, Laura, this is something not to ask me about. because because my advice would be hopeless. I have always managed to maintain I have always managed to maintain a clueless and feckless style as far as being a gigolo. I have no gigolo bones in my body. You'll have to talk to Joseph. Joseph's the lady killer. He'll get you, but not me. Yee. Water changed too. Big City Betas is taking better care of those idlers than you did, Joseph. She actually cares about them. All right, guys, it's a little bit early, but I'm pretty tuckered out today, so I'm going to shut it down a little early, let you guys have the rest of your Saturday off. Humor is just covering up my failings, Big City. Yes, the stream has taken a turn, and I'm going to turn away from the stream. I'm no longer involved in this stream. All right, guys, I'm going to get out of here while I still have any pride left. You guys have a good rest of your weekend. Good luck with your fish. I still don't know whether I'm going to be able to make it to Aquashella or not. I'm going to try, but I'm not sure that I will actually be there. Thank you for being here, guys. I hope you learned something valuable that could be used in some way related to fish. Probably not today, but I hope anyway. Good luck, guys.